Guys, welcome back to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Ryan Woodard.
And I'm Ashleigh Early.
And today it's my pleasure to bring to you a person I met in Sales for the Culture. He's a leader, not just there, but across many sales organizations through his tenure, like 20 plus years of sales experience. Everybody, welcome DeJuan Brown.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm ecstatic to be here. Thank you.
Man, blessed and excited to have you, brother. I mean, we've had our private conversations, our interactions in Sales for the Culture, things we've accomplished, but to host you here and kind of get your story out there and anything that's top of mind to you with sales right now is my honor, and it's super excited to have you.
I feel like DeJuan's
I appreciate you
here because DeJuan, I think, is our first person on any episode of The Other Side of Sales ever that is recording in an actual podcast studio.
Is that right?
This makes us, after nearly 100 episodes, we're officially legit. We have recorded with at least one person in an official studio.
And here's the thing. This is the first podcast I've ever recorded in a podcast studio.
There we go.
Groundbreaking.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like world record breaking, right?
Really quickly, because I mean, obviously, Ryan, you and DeJuan have this amazing background with Sales for the Culture, which if you're not familiar with Sales for the Culture, please look it up, especially if you are a Black sales rep. Please get involved. That is an incredible resource for you to have. If you're an ally, make sure you're aware of it, because there are a lot of incredible people involved with that. But DeJuan, like, just for those who do not have that history with you, and you've got this incredible breadth of experience, like there are a lot of elements to your story. Just very briefly, I'm aware of quickly, but just kind of give our listeners kind of a quick overview of kind of what your journey has been like.
Yeah, thank you. My sales journey has probably started where a lot of people's did, right? Both by mistake and in the service industry, right? So I think initially I waited tables and bartended for like 8 years or so. And it was actually through a relationship in that industry that I got into like what most people would call formal sales. And that's a guy who is, I will always be indebted to him for his sort of vision. But he would not let me not apply to my first sales job because he was working there. He had worked with me in the restaurants. He had kind of seen, the way that I was able to excel at that work. And he was just like, you need to apply. And he would always tell me over and over. And then I got into sales. And so I was at the first company I was with, Intuit. I was there for 12 and a half years. Kind of ran out of things to do and business units to work within, is one way that I felt. And I moved on to outside sort of field sales, first time doing that as well. And that was at Bloomberg. And then I moved on to, a bunch of other roles, right? Both individual contributor as well as sales leadership, in a variety of functions, right? So VP of sales, regional sales manager, advisor, these sorts of things. And then fast forward to the day, I found myself at Microsoft.
Man, that's freaking incredible.
Truncated version.
All those different steps you've taken, man. How do you, like, if you were to give anybody some bits of advice, how would you advise them on like that career path and that trajectory? I know that was like one of the big kind of things we discussed was the abnormal or I guess the linear career path in sales and how to kind of break that mold.
Yeah, there are. I like that question, and one of the reasons I like that question is because it's one that can be answered differently at different points of a person's life, right, and career. So like I know people who are 19 years old right now, planning out their career and saying at the end of that path they want to be a CEO, right? I didn't have that type of forethought. So for people like me, right, who are like, I'm in sales now, or I'm really wanting to get into sales. I don't know what I want to end up doing in sales, but I love serving people. I love solving problems. I love, building stories and those sorts of things. All of the things that are involved in sales. I would say, enjoy your first roles, right? Enjoy your second role, enjoy your third role, like, and follow passion, not money. Because eventually, as long as you're doing the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that excites you and lights your fire, like that's what the world needs, right? It's people doing the thing that lights them on fire, right? And if you do that, you'll end up having, like, there was an article and I posted it on LinkedIn that really, really rocked me, because it talked about career as a portfolio, not a path. And I was just like, yo, it rocked me because that's my story. But then it also rocked me because if I had thought about it that way before it became my story, I would have felt like a genius. I thought it, and it's something that's worth passing on, right? Think about your career even as a tapestry itself, like the career tapestry, where, you know, there are times when the moves that you get opportunity to make don't always align with where you think you are supposed to end up next, but the opportunity to learn and grow within that space just inevitably prepares you for whatever's next. That was my path. I also don't want to dissuade anyone who says, I know exactly the path I want to go, and these are the steps I want to take, and I'm arranging my life and career in order to do that. I don't want to dissuade anybody from that. That just happens not to be how I arrived.
No, it's really interesting you say that, because I had, and we'll post a link to it. I've mentioned it before. I had the same experience you did, in the sense that, like, I did not have the big vision. If anything, I was actively trying to avoid a career in sales, because my dad was a salesperson in tech sales.
Likewise.
And I was like, nope, I saw this. Nope, I don't want it. Don't want it.
Yeah.
And then the Great Recession hit and I was broke. And my dad gave me the talk, but the talk in that case was, you need to just bite the bullet and get into sales. And he was right.
Yeah.
The difference is my dad made his career at companies like AT&T and Digital and Oracle, and I've made my career at startups. So speaks to, like, what you're talking about with, like, there's no reason to do something that doesn't make you happy. I would have been miserable at those giant companies. And thank goodness my dad knew me well enough to tell me that. He was like, don't apply at Oracle. Go find a nice little startup in San Jose. You'll be fine. But I never saw some big, and to this day, I still don't. I really struggle to plan my career more than about 48 months out. Honestly, more than about 24 months out. I don't think that far ahead. But what really helped me early on was I read an article, or Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz wrote this this guide to high growth career planning. And if you have 10 minutes, just read the introduction to this thing, because basically the whole premise of this article is the crux of high growth career planning is not to plan your career. It's to not plan it. It's to stay open to the conversations and the skill development and the relationships. And the more open you are to that, the more likely you are to see opportunities to skip steps and to gain new skills and to do all these other things. And
I like that. Yeah.
So I love this idea of like a portfolio. That's kind of the last step of kind of what I've kind of been trying to explain how I've planned my career. Because the way I go on pods and explain it is like, I plan my career by intentionally not planning my career. And I have every conversation that someone will have with me. And then I assess opportunities as they present themselves. And that's worked very well for me. But I love the idea of it's a portfolio. And so I'm always looking to add new skills and new experiences to my portfolio to make it as comprehensive as possible. Like that's my linear. My linear is making that as comprehensive as possible. My linear is not, I'm going to go check off these title boxes. No judgment on anyone who's following that. I'm in a weird way jealous that works for them. It does not work for my brain.
Yeah. It's yeah. So I'm and personality type has a lot to do with this, right? So like there are people who I know who are like, I heard from a gentleman when I was at the Sales Success Summit in Austin this year, who talked about, he makes $1 million a year. Like he showed his W-2s, he makes $1 million a year, and he works a normal work week for the most part because he so intricately plans the work that he needs to do to accomplish those goals. Yep. Right? That's awesome. I love it. It'll never be me, right? In terms of like having things planned to the dot. First of all, I'm an Enneagram 7, right? And if anyone who's listening to this knows anything about the Enneagram, you know that a 7 is likely not to put themselves into a position where they feel locked into a path, right? And so that's me. And so personality wise, it just doesn't fit for me. Portfolio fits way better than path, but that's not everybody. And I appreciate and applaud that.
I'm over here just trying to figure out what the Enneagram 7 is. You already put me on some new game.
I thought I've seen that written online. I thought it was Enneagram.
You can call it what
I don't know anything about this stuff. Like I'm hardcore Myers-Briggs. So I gotta get familiar with like how Myers-Briggs and Enneagram compare and translate and all that stuff. But that's a really important point. And I think that brings up a good point too, which is I don't care what your personality type is. That's not what determines success in sales. You can have success in sales by being hyper focused and regimented and scheduled. That's fantastic. Good for you. And you can have a ton of success in sales by being very nonlinear and creative and freeform. It's just a matter of finding the right company and the right product that works for that personality and for your strengths.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know, but I'm sure you've been saying this a lot, but especially the last half of 2021 with the Great Recession and the Great Shuffle happening. There's no reason to stay in a job that's toxic. There's no reason to stay at a job where you're not having incredible success. Everyone is looking for good sales talent right now. And if you're not having where you are, it's probably because you're not where you're supposed to be. So go figure out where that is.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I mean, that was one thing that got me to step out of my kind of comfort zone and take a bite into leadership, leading an SDR team. And even in like the first few months of, we had some failure. I'll be honest about that, but I don't really look at failure as a negative thing. I look at it as an opportunity to kind of learn and tweak and retool things. And, there were people that unfortunately didn't stay on our team. I also don't hold grudges or, am upset that they are no longer with us. I think that I would rather them be somewhere and be happy than, like Ashleigh said, be struggling through trying to, bring their whole selves to work each day and do the expectation day in, day out. If it's not for you, I'm the type of manager, you can keep it a buck with me. We can have a conversation and I will support you on working your way out of this company and finding a new role. But while we're paying you, I need you to do a certain set of criteria. And I just don't think that a lot of companies have that type of outlook on leadership. And I also think probably the bigger the company is, the more that weight on your shoulders as a leadership position probably feels, to where you can't be that flexible. With being in a fast-paced startup, actually Edify, where I'm at, we just celebrated our third birthday. So we're super excited about that.
Happy birthday, Edify.
Yeah, it's been a big 2021 for us. We've had some huge partnerships. I'm super excited, blessed to be here, excited to scale our team here. We're kind of like a startup within a startup, and see what 2022 holds. So fun time to be alive, especially in sales.
Yeah, I think you raised you said a couple of really, really cool things there, especially around leadership and just and your approach to all right, maybe this isn't the place for you, right? What do I then do? Right? Do I let you fall off the map? Do I let you kind of fend for yourself? What is it that I actually care about as a leader? Right? Do I care about my people? Right? And their career and their development and their growth and their mental health and psychological safety and all of these things. If that's the case, then there's almost like a necessary path that has to be taken when you discover that somebody's in a role that may not fit them well, or that they're not, reaching the level of happiness that you believe that people should reach in a sales role. And so there's really only a couple, it seems like to me, and it sounds like it seems like to you, there's really only a couple courses of action you can take, right? And one of them is what you said, right? I want to help you as you determine where you want to go. I actually want to help you get there. In order for you to get there and land with a great brand from where you're coming from, there's some requirements here. I want to help you accomplish those while you're here. But I don't want to hold you. We don't own people. You know what I mean? We don't own people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, even like the trash came, what's today? Friday? What Thursday, trash came. Trash people didn't come till like 4 in the afternoon. I was like, yo, what's going on? And then I noticed like it was like one of those old trash trucks from like when we were kids that had
Yeah.
like the 3-man crew, a driver, a dude working the controls in the back, and another dude going and grabbing them. And I'm thinking like, I bet you they had some turnover. Maybe some trucks broke down, they behind on like maintenance. And then
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife about that, and she's like, yeah, but I hear that Republic Services actually pays really well. And I said to her, I was like, yeah, but people aren't just paying well for being treated like shit, part of my language.
Right.
But
Right.
it's gonna take more than just
people are getting smart. And that's the thing, the definition of being paid well is changing as it should. Because if you look at wages the past 30 years, they have not kept up with inflation, not even counting what's happening recently. And people are realizing that it's not just about the money, it's about the quality of life that comes with the job. You look at waste management, I have a bunch of different friends who are teachers, nurses, we talk about the service industry, but like those people who are really public servants doing the things, getting our job, not politicians, although civil servants is something different. Those jobs are typically lower paying, but with better benefits. But still the amount of, to use Ryan's word, shit that people put up with is crazy compared to what we in corporate America deal with every day. So it's this weird thing. And even within corporate America, you look at, I'm seeing this in sales, a lot of people like, I would never work at a company that doesn't let me use that doesn't have an auto dialer or something like that. And there's a whole bunch of interesting things there are a whole bunch of thoughts I have on that, but more to the point, it's about understanding what you need to be happy and to be successful and to be fulfilled. And that's not selfish. That's not negative. That's understanding what you need to succeed, because you're not going to perform well unless you're actively happy and healthy. So it's in companies' best interest to make sure they're hiring people that are going to be set up for success there, versus people who are like, if you really only do well with a dialer, then you need to be in a high dial environment. Do not do enterprise sales. That's fine. But like, let's stop lying.
And on the enterprise sales side, like I'm starting to hear people talk about, tech stack is a big deal, right? And so I hear people that's like, one of the first questions they're asking in job interviews, right, as they interview for the role is like, talk to me about your tech stack, right? I think that's appropriate, right? Like a closed mouth does not get fed, right? And if you're not asking the questions about the things that matter deeply to you and your satisfaction in a role, then that's the other side of it, right? Where it is, before, and I think again, like we still have to consider the fact that this matters at different levels depending on the stage of career for each individual. Because, and I had this conversation not that long ago when I was talking about like, do you believe? Because I read somewhere on the interwebs, someone said like you have to be willing to basically eat crap as an early stage salesperson in order to get where you want to go. And I was just like, I don't think that's true. I get the sentiment. I get what they're saying. Like, they're going to be roles that you have to take that aren't necessarily perfect. Like, there's no real perfect role in order to get the experience and the growth and to learn the things that you need to learn. But in terms of like taking on roles now where, like you said, there's too much choice. There are too many organizations that have a phenomenal tech stack for you to go to one that doesn't. Right. Like, and so when you ask those questions, you're asking them with literally hundreds of backup plans, right? If the tech stack is not there. So like the questions that get asked now necessarily should be, organizations necessarily should be trying to answer in the affirmative, because there's so many organizations that are able to answer in the affirmative for some of these harder questions, or some of these less frequently asked questions 4 years ago that get asked in every interview today.
Well, I think that brings up a really good point too, which is there are, again, it comes down to knowing yourself, knowing what you're good at, or being realistic about what you're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
I got to where I got to in my career because I went to companies that had terrible tech stacks. But I did that going in eyes open, knowing what I was walking into, and because I was okay with that, because I enjoy building things. I'd much rather build something from scratch and do it the way I want it than come into a
Yeah.
system that I don't like and not be able to change it. So it's understanding these things. Like if you know you really need these things, you do well with, like, I think of it like, I mean, maybe this is oversharing, but I suck at bowling. I'm terrible. Oh my God.
I do in actuality, but I will never say it when we're going bowling.
I'm so competitive that I basically don't go bowling, because the only way, unless like, because if I'm going bowling, I'm going to insist on bumpers, and then it's going to turn into like, how many times can I get the ball to bounce off the bumpers, and I'll compete off of that versus
Yeah.
I'm a little extra like that. But the point kind of stands, like you have to know what sort of guardrails you need to be successful and to feel comfortable and to relax and have some fun with it. So like I was the one who, every time we did bowling as like a game for like team building and SF or something, like I was always the one who's over at the air hockey table, like trying to get people to come play me air hockey or do skee ball or something else. Cause
Oh, wow.
it's just that sort of thing. But the point stands, like if you need those things, that's fine, ask for them, be successful. But at the same time, if you're someone who is capable or who understands these things, like don't be afraid, and don't confuse kind of there are so many different types of sales.
Yes.
You know, there's so many different types of sales that, again, it comes down to no reason to stay in a role where you're not successful, whether it's because of tech stack, it's because of leadership, it's because of culture, or it's because of tools. Like there's no reason to stay in a place that you're not being successful and you're not happy.
Yeah.
Because there's just no reason for that. And you can change all the worst thing you can do though is stay at a company that set you up to fail and lied about it, because then you're just rewarding their bad behavior.
Yeah, it's a tough scenario. You know, I think in all that you said, like self-awareness is very important, and we grow in self-awareness at different rates and different paces, right? Like I would never pretend that, you know, I was the most mature 30-year-old, right? In fact, probably quite the opposite. And so, you know, I have to frame like my advice, my guidance and things like that on the basis that, like, you know, some level of assessment of where each person is on the self-awareness, you know, continuum or the self-awareness path, right? Like, and it's okay, right? If you're in a, you know, if you're in a place, if I'm a leader and you're in a place, and that's the thing I think is really important too in terms of leadership, right? Is that everyone is on a different place on the continuum toward self-awareness, on the continuum toward, you know, liberation, right? Like psychological liberation, on the continuum toward certainty about future and career and desire. And in some cases on the continuum of like what drives them and what they're passionate about, right? And so these distinctions are so important if we're going to be like what I would call redemptive leaders, right? Leaders who care, put their people first, and understand that by doing that, you impact positively the business, and trusting that that's the case. Because if you don't trust that that actually is the case, then it's going to be very difficult for you to lead in that way. And so I can say that because I've seen myself from 2002 when I first landed at a tech company in sales to now 2021, about to turn 47 in January. Oh my goodness. 2002 DeJuan, I got pictures. 2008 DeJuan, I got pictures. 2015, 16 DeJuan, not only do I have pictures, I have audio, right? That path, right? If I didn't have the leaders that I had along the way, I don't even know, right? There would be no way I'd have confidence to be my authentic self in any context, right? Because I believe that that's not marketable, nor is it profitable for a business to have someone who this is their authentic self. But it's been a part of my leadership path as well. Those that I've had as leaders who have helped me to cultivate this because they've been redemptive leaders in a lot of cases, right? who have taken the risk, but they understood already that the outcomes are positive because they trusted that empowering and liberating people to be themselves in the context, especially with, it's aptitude, right? It's attitude, it's aptitude, and then it's skill. Like if the attitude is there, if the aptitude is there, then you can often trust that, liberating that person to be their authentic self in the space is going to benefit the business, and it's going to benefit you in their relationship as well.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. I wouldn't even have tried to say it because.
When's that book coming out? I want a copy.
No books. And you know why? Well, we can talk about that too. Like, that's one of the things I know about myself, right? There's a lot that I do. One of those things is not codifying things, right? And a book feels like codification. I need help with that, right? Anything like that. That my point is like knowing yourself and kind of understanding where your limitations are. There was a song. I'm a hip hop head, and I think it was one of the Hieroglyphics crew. They had a song that was called "MCs Should Know Their Limitations." MCs should know their limitations, right? And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do as people, certainly as leaders, but also as sellers, is to know our limitations and build community and get ourselves engaged in community so that we can actually have gaps filled. We can learn the things that we know we don't know, and we can be empowered in ways that we know we kind of have opportunities to be empowered. But that takes self-awareness, it takes a willingness, it takes humility, and it takes a desire to feel what you now know is a limitation, and not pretend like I do when I go bowling. Like I say, yeah, we're going bowling. I'm a roll. I probably bowl a 280. But when I get there, I sometimes get a 90. Sometimes I break 100. Right? You don't want to do that in life with your career and your limitations.
Man, that's like when I first started playing golf. I was like, oh yeah, But now that I can actually do those things, it does liberate you. And when you were talking, man, I just was like having flashbacks of like 25-year-old Woodard versus 35-year-old Woodard. And I had this like idea that I was a general manager of a big box retail store. I had to wear a suit and a tie. I had a Acura newer car, leather seats, heated seats. I thought I had it going on. And I noticed like people treated me different based on how I was dressed. And I don't know if it's like this shift in 2021 to people don't really judge a book by its cover. And I kind of thinking about what you were saying, like I wasn't happy either. So I'm thinking like, I wonder if my internal despair was like the energy was just flowing off of me. Plus I'm dressing like sweats and a baggy tee or something on my days off. I'm already looking frustrated or whatnot. So people are like, stay away from this dude. Whereas like the other day I'm in Kroger and, I'm thinking like, here I am looking like a caveman. I'm embracing No Shave November. I haven't had my locks retwisted since like September. And this lady and her daughter like, hey, sir, could you point us to the bathroom? I'm thinking, wow, they approached me to ask me where the bathroom was. Like, hey, I was all geeked. Like, sure, yeah, I know where it's at. It's back there in the corner. Like, you gotta. It's a long walk, so I hope you don't have to go bad. But it's all the way to the back. Thank you so much. I'm thinking all these other people. I mean, there's white folk, black folk.
Yeah,
they could have approached anybody, but they chose Grizzly Adams to approach. I thought like it must be the energy I must have exhumed because I felt like since I kind of grew my hair out, stopped really caring about external appearance, material things nearly as much. I just feel like a completed person that I don't have to fake the funk. I don't have to wear different masks to feel like I fit in socially. I just let it go. And
I want that for so many people, man. There's still some ways I want it for myself, right? Like I haven't arrived, right? I'm not on here like I am at the pinnacle of liberation as it relates to authentic selfhood and self-awareness. What I am saying is that, my goodness, every step toward it is a beautiful thing, right? And if I look back at 2002 DeJuan and I look at those pictures, the first step toward liberation and authentic selfhood in the workplace wasn't a giant leap, right? It wasn't a giant leap at all. It was somebody telling me that filler words didn't matter, right? I don't care if you say on the call, because I was fighting to not do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a tiny incremental step toward a level of freedom based on who I was and just how I communicated at the time. Someone telling me it's fine, don't worry about that. I don't care about that. So what I'm trying, you see what I'm saying? So that's just like all it is like, okay, boom, I can let my guard down on the phone. That was a highly transactional role in 2002, but I can let my guard down on the phone because I'm not worried about how many times I'm saying right? That little small step, right? And there's just a million of those on the way to where I am now. And my guess is there are a million more on the way to like real, continued liberation. I don't think this ends, but I love like that as you see people and we, as leaders, you want to see that. You want to see people like take those incremental steps to selfhood, like to authentic selfhood in the workplace, right? You really want to see it because it's just such a beautiful thing. And even what you just recalled, man, it changes the way you move through space. You know what I'm saying? You move through space differently. Again, I'm a hip hop head. You see, I don't know, like if I look at a Jay-Z video from Reasonable Doubt days, and I look at a Jay-Z video from 444 days, I see something different. And it's not just age.
Yeah.
It's liberation, right?
Well, I can take this a step further physically for a lot of women, literally shoe wear, footwear. When I came into the corporate world, especially when I moved into leadership, I wore heels every day. I did not need to. I did it because I was terrified. And I needed that. I literally needed that boost, that kind of physical cue.
Yeah.
To get myself psyched up. And, cue all the classic, foot pain and finding the right shoes. And those things are expensive and you burn out and all that other stuff. And, jump to 2020, right before the pandemic, I went on my first ever paid, client visit in flats.
Liberation.
Liberation. But beyond that, I have never gotten more compliments on how comfortable and confident I seemed and looked than when I was wearing freaking flats. And I was not wearing some I looked good, but I wasn't wearing anything crazy. But just something that's literally just that the confidence that came from being like, no, you know what? I'm choosing not to participate in this. I'm giving myself permission to do this thing. That said, you will never see me on stage in front of more than 20 people without heels. But part of
that's what we talk about, right? It's a
I know what I want to look like. Not, I feel like I need this. That's no, I want this.
Right.
Now it's a choice to feel like versus a fear.
Now this is I'm an individual contributor today. Yet I think that this is like really encouraging the people in leadership roles, right? Like, so what are like, if you, just the conversation that we just been having and you're thinking about it and like, how powerful is that these like, if somebody would have said to you, Ashleigh, hey, Ashleigh, like, you know what? I mean, you don't need to wear heels. Like, are you more comfortable in flats? Put flats on. Yeah. At that time, like, what would that have done to you at that point in your career? Or, what are, the same thing, right? Like these small things, like the ability that leaders have to positively impact people for years to come, right? And enhance psychological safety and to help them in that coming out of the cocoon towards, what we would be, again, considering authentic selfhood in the workplace. It doesn't take like these gargantuan moves. I mean, those are great. But, it's encouraging as a leader to know like there's these tiny steps that we can take that incrementally impact the people that we serve in ways that are life-changing in some cases.
Yeah, man, no doubt. I just think of too, like I had a rep come from publishing and first kind of foray into SaaS. She's my top contributor. I shouted her out on LinkedIn because she's already like way above 50% to goal for the month, and we're 3 days in, and she's already got like more meetings booked, and she's
Merry
just
Christmas.
relentless. She like, man, I'm telling you, Ashleigh knows I had to have a conversation with her in my direct report about being more prescriptive about what we need each day, each week, each month, how to get to those levels of high production and quota attainment, and then just scaling it and repeating it. And, you know, there were times where like I felt like maybe I was being too hard whenever I would like coach, and I would have to kind of like check myself, but then like she would be like, no, that's what I need to hear. And I'm just like, whoa, like you're blowing me away as your direct report on like how to manage people, because I'm used to being an individual contributor, kind of being a people pleaser in a sense. When you're selling, like you want to, you know, you don't want to ruffle the feathers too much, but I like to poke and prod and be kind of like the challenger sale mentality. But you're still, you know, you still want them to sign that contract, so you don't go too crazy. and you know, to hear her kind of like check me in a sense, it was again liberating. I'm sure it was kind of liberating for her to feel like I can give feedback back to my manager and not have it turn into like a, you know, some sort of power struggle where I'm trying to have power over this person and over their day-to-day life. It's like, no, I want you to.
It's not an instruction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Man, we work. Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Like, and again, like that's, you have a person who has shown you that in terms of their journey and path to self-awareness, like they're pretty far along, right? And that's awesome. And you're gonna serve her in a different way than you might someone who may not be there yet, right? But all that we're talking about right now, the foundation of it has to be you care, right?
Well, and that's honestly, I think that's something a mistake a lot of managers make when they're giving feedback, is they don't give the context.
Right.
I'm giving you this feedback because I believe in you. Not because I'm not giving this feedback because I'm upset. I'm giving you this feedback because I believe in you, and I want for you to do better and to live up to your potential. So it's really easy, especially if you've never done those harsh feedbacks before, to feel like, oh God, this person's gonna think I'm hating them. If you give people that context, feedback is the ultimate form of investment and proving that you're invested. I don't just love you when you're performing. I love you when you're not at 100%, and I'm willing to put in the work with you to get you to where you're capable of going, not 100%, where you're capable of going. And that might be 95%, that might be 200%, but I'm holding you accountable to what I think you're capable of, not necessarily just a quota number. The quota is just so you get paid. I'm holding you accountable to that capability. And that's where the feedback has to come from. And
and if you're about to give somebody feedback, if you're about to give somebody feedback and you wonder if they're going to think that you hate them or whatever the case might be, like I would argue, like, I mean, that's not when you should find out, right, that a person either knows or doesn't know that you care for them as a person, right? For them as a human, for them as a person that's, you know, that's in the, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I have to give harsh feedback. Now's the time where we both discover like what it is that we are, you know, what is the nature or the foundation or the undergirding of this relationship. Now's the time. Like, no, you know, we should be, and that's the whole thing with the psychological safety and all those things like that. Like, the foundation is like, I you know, caring about people, right? Caring about people, desiring to serve people, wanting to see people flourish, live out, you know, live to the maximum of their potential within the space that they're in, and all of these things like that. Like, that stuff should be known either, you know, intermingled with or ahead of, you know, a need for any hard criticism or hard feedback, I think.
100%.
No doubt. I 100% agree too. It's just, you know, when you're doing your first foray in it, and I think probably because I did kind of set those foundations, that probably empowered her and liberated her to be like, nah, dude, you good. I know what I know what we're getting at. Like, so
yeah. And I know
everything turned
from
out great.
Sales for the Culture. I know from Sales for the Culture, like how deeply you care for your people. Like it's gotta be obvious to the people. It's obvious to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. That's
man,
dope,
but we could keep this going all night. We might need a couple cocktails or something to keep it going. But unfortunately, we got to end the show the same way we always do. And so, DeJuan, we're gonna put you on the spot with a series of rapid fire questions. Nothing too serious, but so don't overthink it. Just do it like Jay-Z, like you were saying earlier. Just you take them shits with one punch, man. You don't
one take hold.
Re-record. But one take. Let's go. Ashleigh, you want to kick them off, or you want me to kick off the first one?
I'll start it off. Nice and simple. What's your morning routine?
My morning routine, I get up as early as humanly possible. I usually check my phone, kind of scroll. I know I'm not supposed to do this. I check my phone, scroll around a little bit. I'm usually at the gym between 5:30 and 5:45. I work out till around 7 to 7:15. And then I come home, at which time I'll probably get on my computer for a little bit. I'll take my dog for a run and chase a tennis ball, come back home, try to help in some way, either by making my daughter's lunch as she heads out to school. I have 5 kids at home. And then I'm getting back on the computer after I shower and so forth.
How old are the kids?
7 to almost 17. My son will be 17 this month. That's at home. I have an elder son, or I should say an older son. My eldest is 25, but he lives in France. And so at home it's 7 to 17, and away from home it's 25.
A lot of
hormones. Well, I have 2 sons. The 25-year-old, the 17-year-old are both boys, and the rest of my beautiful kids are daughters.
Pick one person who's had a significant impact on your career.
One person who's had a significant impact on my career. I'm gonna have to say there's a lot, but I definitely have to say, I can't pick 2?
You can pick 2. Why not?
Yeah, I go with Mark Dean. That's early career. Mark Dean is a dude. He's still a phenomenal sales leader to this day. To this day. But in like 2002, I was into it. Like, he just saw something that I even didn't see, and helped me in ways that were really critical for me at that time, and got me over some very significant humps in my mind, mental health and some other things. I don't even think he knew that. I've told him since, but that was crucial for me remaining in sales and remaining at Intuit for as long as I did, and then getting that foundation. And then later, when I left Intuit, I came to Bloomberg. Jack Kelly, the guy who hired me at Bloomberg, my goodness, right? I tell him all the time, I was like, if it wasn't you who interviewed me, I don't think I would have gotten that job, right? Like, and it's nothing against Bloomberg. It's just like, the experience wasn't there for the type of work, like, all of the things that we see and we talk about, especially in Sales for the Culture, where it's just like, how do I move into this type of role if I'm not able to get the opportunity to do so because of I don't have the experience, like dot for dot, you know what I mean? Jack saw through all of that, gave me the opportunity, and then helped me to see, like, he said, you're a leader. And then and then helped me to see it myself. And then I actually did become a sales leader at Bloomberg, right? So those are 2 people that really, really helped me toward these different levels of liberation throughout my career.
I love that. And that's so important to mention. Like, it's not just one person. You're going to have a tapestry of people behind cheering you on your whole career. And that is exactly how it should be. So, all right. I have a feeling I know where this is going to go. And I'm super curious what you're going to say. What's your pump up song?
I'm a hip hop head. And so, but my pump up song is probably, You Can't Stop Me by Andy Mineo is one of them. No Chains by KB is another one. Don't Nobody Own Us by KB is another one. Those are pump up songs because they speak really, really loud and clear to this idea of liberation that I'm so passionate about because I'm still on that journey. But again, every step down that path just feels really, really good. And I'm a little bit sad that it took me 47 years to get to a point where this is where I'm at, right?
Well, that's a perfect transition for this next question. What's one thing you wish you learned earlier?
Yeah, one thing that I wish I learned earlier, that it's not about me.
Oh,
I learned that I alluded to it earlier. I was like, I wasn't the most mature, even 30-year-old, right? That's a part of it, right? Like this idea that it's really not about you. And that the shortest distance to what you want and need in this world is like serving and helping as many people as you possibly can get what they want or need. Like it's legitimate, right? Like that whole, give and serve as a MO, as a motivator, as a desire, actually impacts you in ways that you probably couldn't have impacted yourself had you just chased after it selfishly. It's really interesting.
that's so true. Okay. I'm super curious here. What book has had the biggest impact on your sales career?
What book has had the biggest impact on my sales career? This may be a shocker. It's the Bible, actually.
You're not the first person that said that.
Yeah, absolutely has had the biggest impact on my sales career because, I believe you see like the perfect picture of humility and the perfect picture of meekness if we define meekness as power under control.
Yes.
Right. In the person and work of the one Jesus Christ himself. Right. And so like watching and reading the way that he interacted, all of the things he could have said but didn't, that self-control, like all of the ways in which he poured himself out for the benefit of others, like those are the things that I think have most impacted me in my sales career, for sure.
That's awesome. That rings true, man. You couldn't, it, I might have lost for words almost, but it gives us a good foundation and to kind of build ourselves on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's one way someone could have been a better ally to you?
Oh man, just by being one, right? I can recall times where it was just like, just an absence of allyship in general. Being an ally wasn't cool in 2002, in 1998. You know what I mean? Like there were allies, but being in situations where you just feel sort of helpless and sort of out there, and you feel like, man, this response that I'm getting to this work. There was a time, and I won't say which company I was working at. There was a time when I was 250% to my number, right? I had thought of like some really cool and creative ways to frame the thing that we were selling. And it was working, and people were like, it was resonating and things like that. My manager came to me and literally told me, probably 3/4 through the year, I'm having to gather some resources to audit all your orders because we've had a couple people saying that there's no way that you're not cheating. And I said, but you know me. You know what I'm doing. Like, you've asked me to help share that with other people. Did you go to bat for me? Like, what? And it was, that was one of those moments where I just felt like, to his I guess to his defense, to some degree, he was just like, I know you're above board. I'm just having a couple extra people go through all of your orders so that it'd be clear to the people who complained to me. And I was like, on what basis are they saying this? Mm-hmm. It's a cubicle life at this time, right? I'm beside everybody. All my calls are in the open. I don't have an office. Like, what could I possibly be doing? What could I possibly be saying? Right. And that did something to me during that time. And to also not feel like I actually had an ally in that moment, was deeply impactful as well. Yeah, that would probably be an example that clearly I will never forget that. This is the first time I've told that story in over a decade, right? Like I just, clearly it's burned in me.
I'm sorry that happened. That's ridiculous and should never have happened. And you should have, I mean, obviously I hate to say it was a different time 10 years ago, but that sucks on every level.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
Shouldn't have
that.
had to deal with it.
Yeah, it was well over 10 years ago. And at the same time, it was just like, and of course it came up like because I wasn't cheap. So like there was no way there was nothing to find. But it was interesting because, I still have to work in that milieu with those two people who felt that way about me, and no one ever came forward and apologized. Yeah. Right. So yeah, hostile environment psychologically for me at that time. And so we have to think about those things as well.
Absolutely. All right. So kind of flipping that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What is something you're doing to be a better ally for others?
Yeah. What is something I'm doing to be a better ally for others? Allyship takes a lot of forms today, especially when the things that when the things that people need allyship in and for have taken a different shape and frame today. So it looks different to be an ally under different circumstances. But some of the ways that I'm doing it is like I spend as much time as I possibly can, like serving through mentorship and serving through trying to help people understand and the navigating of these waters, right? Corporate America or the tech space. When hearing people get talked over in meetings, right? Like these are the normalcies, right? Where you just where you double back and try to be very cognizant that people have a voice and that that there's equity and that there's inclusion in meetings and in the context of projects that you might be taking part in, just kind of being open-eyed about who's involved and making sure that there's that people are represented. Like we have people from various parts of the team. But I think one of the biggest things that I'm able to do and have been able to do is there's a lot of young sellers who just reach out to me on a regular basis. And one of the things that they say is like, I know you're super busy. I don't know if you'll be able to give me any time, but like, if you could just give me 10 minutes, I'll be like, that's nuts. I ain't nobody, right? I'm not that dude to be looking at like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, of course, let's talk. Put a recurring. Look, there's a guy that I'm talking with right now. Like every week, I was like, put it on let's do it. It's gotta be very very early morning, but we can rock every week. Like and of course I don't have infinite time, but being an ally in places and times that look different, I think is really really critical and important to get people fast tracked so that they're not where I was when I was 30, right? I think that's one of the best things I'm able to do, and like to be really, really open and be honest and transparent with everybody that I meet. To me, is a degree of allyship as well.
Man, all right. So I got to get up at 5 o'clock.
No. You do not. Please don't. I got 5 kids. I almost don't have a choice if I want to work out, right? Because after work, I got to get home.
Yeah. So then the final one. What's your guilty pleasure after a long day? Because boy, you be up early, so your days are like extra long.
Yeah, my guilty pleasure. I make something called the DeJuan. So like there's a combination. So like I sit and watch like nonfiction TV, right? So you think $1 Million Listings, you think Shark Tank, you think The Voice, that type of thing. Something like that. HGTV, like, you know what I mean? Like, House Hunters and stuff like that, right? And
Fun story. Michael and I were actually asked to be on House Hunters International recently, and we turned it down.
Oh my goodness, I love that show. Yeah, so that would be a part of it, and then the other part is like, there's a dessert that I make called the DeJuan, where I take Greek yogurt, some sort of ice cream with lumps and bumps, like a Rocky Road or a, you know what I mean, like or cookies and cream, and oat milk. And that's what I do. Like, I have my yogurt, and if I have any type of cake at all in the house, whether it's a cupcake or whether it's a birthday cake or anything like that, had a chunk of that in that mixture. That's called a DeJuan, right? And it's amazing. It is amazing. And so watching one of those shows and eating that, and then, you know, on commercials or on parts that maybe I've seen before, I'm playing Words with Friends, right?
Okay.
That is a vibe. I like this.
Yeah, it's a vibe in a big chair in the living room. It's a real vibe. Yes.
Might have to get a DeJuan this weekend for myself.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh man, DeJuan, thank you so much, man, for joining us on this Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. It's first Friday. I know a lot of cities have that popping tonight.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to listen to that, just know it's first Friday for us on December 3rd. We hope you guys join us again. DeJuan, where can our listeners find you?
Definitely on LinkedIn. You know, on Twitter, I'm at Stratus now. Stratus like the cloud. Yeah, those are the places, right? So, you know,
we'll be sure to drop those in the episode description. And as always, you can find Ashleigh and I and the Other Side of Sales at othersideofsales.com, Twitter at OSOS_POD, Instagram, Other Side of Sales, and on LinkedIn at The Other Side of Sales. I'm Ryan Woodard.
I'm Ashleigh Early.
And guys, it's been DeJuan. He's joined us. Thank you so much, brother.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was fun.